The Sign of His Coming Revealed. Steve Fletcher. This is confirmation and clarification of DEWEY Bruton's Daniel's timelines. On December 12, 2012, the Lord called me to bring forth this prophetic word to the United States and to the world. December 12, 2012 was the date of my calling. The Lord sent me and my family a sign in the sun, and to understand the sign, I had to know when the sign would come. This sign was my anointing and calling to understand what would come over these last 3 years. I consider it my burning bush, as Moses was called, or my blinding light on the road to Damascus. On December 12, 2012, I was called to bring forth this prophetic word. After receiving my sign in late 2012, the Lord brought me to DEWEY Bruton's video presentation of Daniel's timeline. His work was an instrumental foundation to what the Lord would show me about the abomination of desolation, and also serves as the biblical requirement that every teaching or revelation must have 2 or 3 witnesses. DEWEY Bruton is another witness to what I am sharing. Back in 2005, based on the timelines in the book of Daniel, DEWEY Bruton discovered that the abomination of desolation must be fulfilled in 2013, and that the only date that would fit would be March 22nd, 2013. Based on his teaching, he showed that the abomination must be fulfilled on Nisan 10, the date of the triumphal entry. He also discovered that the clue in Matthew 24 applied to this event, that your flight would not be in winter or on the Sabbath. Here's the calendar for March 2013, and if you look at the 22nd of March on Friday, you see it is locked right in between the last day of winter on the 21st, and on the 23rd is the Sabbath, and the abomination happened on March 22nd, 2013, that your flight would not be in winter or on the Sabbath. DEWEY Bruton has a great way of explaining everything he found, and he has multitudes of witnesses to show how we can understand everything biblically with the assurance that what he is sharing is true and biblically sound. This would definitely be recommendable that everyone sees this as a foundation for what I also am going to be sharing with you. From my sign in late 2012, and having read and understood DEWEY Bruton's teaching showing that the abomination of desolation may be fulfilled in March 22nd, 2013, the Lord began to open my understanding of what he would begin showing me. My call came only 3 months before the abomination was fulfilled. In Matthew 24, it says, "What shall be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world?" Notice the wording of this text. What shall be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world? And this is what the Lord began to open up to me, the understanding that there is a specific sign of his coming in Matthew chapter 24. That is why it is worded, what shall be the sign of his coming? It's a specific sign, not a general sign. We see throughout Matthew chapter 24 that there is a list of general signs that we cannot put on any specific event as the sign. There is not one thing here in these general signs that we could say that was the sign or this was the sign. For example, starting in verse 5, it says there will be false Christs. There are wars, rumors of wars. These are general signs. We can't say this war or that war. These are not specific events. These are general items. And then it goes on and it says nation against nation, kingdom against kingdom, famines, pestilences, and earthquakes. These are all general signs. Then it continues persecution, martyrdom, hated by all, offenses, betrayals, hatred, false prophets, love growing cold, the gospel preached in all the world. Now, even that, we cannot know what moment in time that was. That's a general sign. By the rise of the internet and the preaching in all the countries, we can just know that the gospel has definitely reached all the world. None of these events can be pinpointed as a specific trigger or sign of his coming. These are all general signs. But then we come to Matthew 24:15, and we have a specific sign, and that is why at the beginning of the chapter it says, "What shall be the sign of your coming and of the end of the age?" Matthew 24:15. "When ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation, spoken of by Daniel the prophet, stand in the holy place. Whoso readeth, let him understand." Now here is a specific event or a sign. It's an actual event that happens on a specific day, when the abomination of desolation stands in the holy place. Okay? And Jesus says, when you see it. So this is the sign of his coming that we need to be looking for. Now, is there another witness to this? Is there another passage that confirms the abomination as the sign of his coming? Because we know that in the Bible it says, "In the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses shall every word be established." One passage alone is not enough for me to make an assumption that this is the sign of his coming, unless we have more witnesses. Now let's look at Mark chapter 13 and the wording that we have there and see how it is related to Matthew chapter 25. It says in Mark 13:4, "Tell us, when shall these things be? And what shall be the sign when all these things shall be fulfilled?" Again, it repeats, the sign. It doesn't say a sign, it says the sign. The sign when all these things shall be fulfilled. Again, we are pointed to a specific sign. The sign. Now, repeated, this is similar to Matthew chapter 25. And it repeats all the general signs. False Christs, wars, rumors of wars, nation against nation, kingdom against kingdom, famines, earthquakes, troubles. Verses 6 through 8, these are all general signs. The general signs continue: imprisonments, beatings, gospel preached in all the nations, betrayal amongst family, hated by all for my name's sake. These are all general signs. But let's look again for our specific sign. The sign. Mark 13:14. "When you shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet, standing where it ought not." Again, this sign is confirmed in Mark. The abomination of desolation. In both passages it says, "What shall be the sign?" And in both passages it leads us to, after a grouping of general signs, it leads us to the sign. That is the sign that we need to be looking for. It's the sign of his coming, the abomination of desolation. So we have 2 witnesses, Matthew and Mark. And the question is asked in both passages, what shall be the sign of your coming, or what shall be the sign when all these things shall be fulfilled? In both Matthew and Mark it is confirmed, "But when you shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet, standing where it ought not," and Matthew confirms standing in the holy place. Okay, so the sign of his coming, the abomination of desolation. Both Mark and Matthew confirm, which we have our 2 witnesses. Both passages say the sign of his coming. Both passages say, "When you see the abomination of desolation." Both passages confirm that the abomination is according to Daniel the prophet. And it says in Matthew, standing in the holy place. And although Mark does not mention a place, a location, it says standing where it ought not. So we have 2 passages that confirm each other, and we will see how this all plays out. Now on March 22nd, 2013, we have a date that DEWEY BRUTON showed from way back in 2005 without any events happening. The only event that had happened was the rebirth of Israel, and from that event, which has a date on it in 1947, he could work through the biblical scenario of the abomination based on the timelines of Daniel, and he knew ahead of time that the abomination had to be fulfilled on March 22nd, 2013. Now, it was quite probable, okay, that this abomination would be fulfilled on March 22nd, 2013. Now, since my sign in December, and since I had began studying the timelines of DEWEY BRUTON, and I had become aware of this date that looked to be a months away or just days away now, that the abomination could be fulfilled, then I saw and we found out that Barack Obama was making his first visit to Israel on these exact days in 2013. So I had all these things that came together that said we need to be watching. Should we not watch to see what might happen? We have this date shown by a man of God who, through study of the Word and through diligence and through faithfulness to the Scripture alone, putting aside all doctrines of men, but coming to a conclusion based on his study in the Bible. And then at the same period, we have Barack Obama visiting Israel on these exact days in 2013. So that was definitely a watch time, a high watch time that we had to be looking at. And would the abomination be fulfilled by Barack Obama on March 22nd, 2013? So Barack Obama is making his way to Israel for Passover 2013. Now, leading up to the trip to Israel, rumors and stories started flying. I think everybody heard this one. Going to Israel on a donkey. The mascot of the Democratic Party. So he was going on a donkey because he represented the Democratic Party. The theme of the trip, the unbreakable alliance. And did you know that in Hebrew the title means a covenant of peoples? So this definitely had some flavor to be a big trip, maybe a covenant or an alliance or a covenant. And what else would be happening? So this gets our attention, and we pay attention to what is going to be happening to Barack Obama in Israel. And this is the banner, and you see the two triangles in this banner. And the one triangle, the Israel triangle, has the form of the Illuminati eye, and the triangle with the eye right in the middle. Something curious about this, something suspicious about what's going on here. So signs while Obama was in Israel. Okay, they had an ice sculpture of Obama that was erected in Israel. Isn't it against the Mosaic law to make idols of men? That's definitely something that we should be watching. Let's look out for what could happen and what is going on behind the scenes with all these items that are going to be taking place. So that's a watch item. Sandstorm reroutes Obama motorcade, departure celebration canceled. That's a watch item. We've got God intervening here. Something's not right about this trip. God does not like Obama being in Israel, and there's a sign, and his motorcade is rerouted, and the departure celebration is canceled. That's a watch item. Obama visits the Church of the Nativity on exactly 10 Nisan, March 22nd, the date of the triumphal entry. That is the birthplace of Jesus Christ. Could that be standing where he ought not? That's definitely something to watch. Then we have the limousine of the beast. The limousine that belongs to the President of the United States, nicknamed the Beast, and it breaks down in Israel. That's a watch item. We got all these things happening, all these signs, all these weird, suspicious occurrences. And then, by official order of the Israeli Health Department, the Passover sacrifices that they do to reenact the original Passover, they were canceled for 2013. Wow. So here we have sacrifices. Could this be the canceling of the daily offerings? What is this? So this is a watch item. Now, okay, we've got all these items now. We have more than enough reasons to continue investigation. This is not something we should just look over. Many suspicious happenings while Obama was in Israel. And the date in question that was already revealed by DEWEY BRUTON 8 years previous, March 22nd, 2013. So although we cannot make yet the decision from that time, from that very day, we can't say on that exact day that the abomination happened. We can't say it that day because we still have to investigate. We have to consider it. But we had enough reason to investigate further and to seek all the biblical confirmations. Now, a few days later, based on the strength of the sign that I received in December of 2012 and the authority and the power that God gave to me to share from the depth of my heart and with boldness all the findings that I receive, and also from the weight of the evidence, after putting all the pieces together, then this following document was written. The abomination of desolation fulfilled, March 22nd, 2013. Now I got in my own personal revelation that this definitely was the abomination. This was the abomination. I documented it and I showed how it was the abomination, and that is what people have to investigate for themselves to see if it is the fulfillment of the abomination and what we can know about it and what it shows us. If the abomination is the sign of his coming, then we need to know about that fulfillment and what it means. So for a complete understanding of this abomination, make sure that you have studied this complete document. The abomination of desolation fulfilled, March 22nd, 2013. Now, was the abomination of desolation fulfilled? Now that we're going to talk about this in depth, and I'm going to walk you through some of the important items that most people reject when it comes to the abomination of desolation already being fulfilled. Okay, the first item I want to talk about is the holy place, the temple. Is it the temple? Is that the holy place? Or is it some other location? Okay, and we're going to get all of our answers only from the Bible, and then we want to talk about the timing of the abomination. That many people say that can't happen yet because rapture has to happen or the Great Tribulation has to start. And because the Great Tribulation hasn't started yet, then the abomination can't happen. But we're going to look at the timing of that. Okay, the holy place. What is the holy place? Is it the temple or is it some other location? Let's see what the scripture says. And let's remember, any preconceived doctrines that are not backed 100% by scripture should be adamantly rejected. Okay? Where will the abomination occur? What or where is the holy place? Mark 13:14 says, "But when you shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet, standing where it ought not, let him that readeth understand." Matthew 24:15 says, "When ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet, stand in the holy place, whoso readeth, let him understand." Okay, the first thing we must see here, 2 times that Jesus mentions the abomination of desolation. He leads us to Daniel both times. Okay, he says, when you see the abomination spoken of by Daniel, according to Daniel. Okay, Jesus tells us to go look in the book of Daniel. Everything we need to know about the abomination is in Daniel. It's not spread out throughout the Bible. Okay, Jesus told us in both passages spoken of by Daniel. Daniel's got all the answers. Everything is written in the book of Daniel. Okay, then it says the abomination will be standing. And it says in Matthew, the holy place. Mark does not mention a location, but both confirm that he will be standing. Standing in the holy place, standing where he ought not. As of right now, temple is not mentioned. Holy place does not translate to temple. Okay, holy place. That is not saying temple. And we have to see what the Bible says and what Daniel says, and that's what we're going to look at now. The abomination according to Daniel the prophet. In both passages, Jesus confirms that the abomination is according to Daniel. The abomination is entirely recorded in the book of Daniel, and that is where we must look to understand. Let him who reads understand. For example, did Jesus tell us to look in Paul's writings to understand? Paul hadn't even written anything yet, and what he says in Thessalonians doesn't match it anyway. 2 Thessalonians 2:4, so that he as God sitteth in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. Paul shows the Antichrist sitting in the temple, and Jesus confirmed twice that he would stand in the holy place. Okay, one is sitting, one is standing. That's not the same event. One says temple, one says holy place. This is not the same event. And Jesus did not tell us to look in the book of Paul. He told us to look in Daniel. Everything we need to know about the abomination is in Daniel. Okay, so now we're going to look at all the Daniel abomination passages, and we're going to look at the place, the location of the abomination. And it's written here, and this is for your own study to confirm and stay with a faithful translation of the Bible, King James or a New King James, that does not change words based on the doctrines of men, because many Bibles will just show right there in the parenthesis, temple, holy place, they'll put temple. And that's not in the original text. So you need to stand with the original, faithful to the original text. This is the Daniel abomination passages. So Daniel 8, it says, yea, he magnified himself even to the prince of the host, and by him the daily sacrifice was taken away, and the place of the sanctuary was cast down. So here, underneath, we've got it listed, place of the sanctuary in verse 11. That's the way he wrote it. And then in verse 13, verse 12 does not mention a place. Verse 13 says, then I heard one saint speaking, and another saint said unto that certain saint which spake, how long shall be the vision concerning the daily sacrifice and the transgression of desolation, to give both the sanctuary and the host to be trodden underfoot? So again, we have sanctuary. And he said unto me, unto 2,300 days, then the sanctuary shall be cleansed. So here in Daniel 8, we have place of the sanctuary, sanctuary, sanctuary. That is the way Daniel puts it. Now let's continue to Daniel chapter 9, and in verse 26, it mentions the place again. It says, after 62 weeks shall Messiah be cut off, but not for himself. And the people of the prince that shall come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary, and the end thereof shall be with a flood, and unto the end of the war desolations are determined. And verse 27 does not mention the place. It just says, the overspreading of abominations he shall make desolate, but does not mention the place. So again, in Daniel 9, verse 26, it mentions sanctuary. And then in verse 31 of Daniel 11, it says, arms shall stand on his part, and they shall pollute the sanctuary of strength, and shall take away the daily sacrifice, and they shall place the abomination that maketh desolate. Okay. And it says they shall pollute the sanctuary of strength. So here we have another word that is added to the previous definitions. It was the place of the sanctuary, it was the sanctuary, it was the holy place, and now it is the sanctuary of strength. Jesus' words, the holy place. If Jesus had meant the temple when he mentioned in both Matthew and Mark, if he would wanted to tell us that he was talking about the temple, wouldn't he have said clearly the holy temple? And in the temple, we know that there are divisions within the temple, and the holy place is a common area. In the original temple, the holy place was a common area for all the priests throughout all the year. And that was a place, a common area in the temple. And if he wanted to show exactly the temple, would he not have said Holy of Holies? Because the holy place is still a common area within the temple. But Jesus did not use any of those terms. He just said holy place. And then he gave us the clues according to Daniel. So aquí we see the holy place in Matthew 24:15. Mark does not mention a place. It just says according to Daniel, standing where it ought not. Place of the sanctuary, sanctuary, sanctuary of strength. Temple is not mentioned once specifically. This is every verse in Matthew, Mark, and Daniel that talks about the abomination of desolation. And these are all the terms to describe the location of the abomination. Temple is not mentioned once specifically. Now, what is the holy place? What is the sanctuary? This says place of the sanctuary, holy place, sanctuary of strength. Now, the place in question, based on the visit of Barack Obama to Israel, was the Church of the Nativity. Now, a Church of the Nativity, is that a sanctuary? A church is a sanctuary, right? Yes, it's a sanctuary. Is it a holy place? You tell me. The Church of the Nativity, the birthplace of Jesus Christ, is that a holy place? Okay, yes. No one can deny that that is a holy place. Now, is it a place of strength? Is it a sanctuary of strength? Yes, it is. Why is the Church of the Nativity a place of strength? Because it's a fortress. It is a fortress complex that is meant to withstand invading forces. It's a fortress. It's a sanctuary of strength. And here is a picture of the Church of the Nativity. It's a sanctuary fortress, sanctuary of strength, just as Daniel says in the book of Daniel. So there we have a sanctuary fortress. Now, another part of this prophecy was that the Church of the Nativity would have been polluted. Okay, was the Church of the Nativity polluted? Was the sanctuary fortress polluted? Was Barack Obama somehow involved in this? Because it says that the Antichrist will have a part. The one who places, who makes desolate, the abomination of desolation, or the Antichrist, will have had a part in the defilement and of the siege, or of the sanctuary being taken by force. So Daniel 11:31 says, "Arms shall stand on his part, and they shall pollute the sanctuary of strength, and they shall take away the daily sacrifice, and they shall place the abomination that maketh desolate." Now, did this happen at the Church of the Nativity? Was the Church of the Nativity polluted and defiled and taken by force? The Church of the Nativity siege happened in 2002. So this fulfillment had to do with the fact that in 2002, the Palestinians took over the Nativity Church by siege. They were actually granted ownership or control of this holy place by UNESCO through the United Nations. Then, when Obama entered it in 2013, he stood with none other than the president of Palestine, Abbas. He stood with him in agreement. Here are some pictures from the Church of the Nativity siege that took place. This is the sanctuary inside. where it was defiled and polluted, and they used Bibles as toilet paper, and they peed on all the pews and the hymnals and the Bibles, and it was polluted and defiled. And you'll see the lamps here and the columns. This is the same exact place that Barack Obama now stands with the instigator of that siege 9 years earlier, or 11 years earlier, in 2002. So here we see the Palestinians loot the sanctuary. Obama stands with them in agreement. Guilt by association. Now, let's look at the timing of the abomination. In a little while, we will look at all the timelines that are in the book of Daniel. For now, I would like to look at the timing of the abomination according to Jesus in the Gospels. In both Matthew and Mark, we have this scenario here. It first says, "What shall be the sign of your coming?" In Matthew, that's in verse 3. Verse 15, Jesus says, "When you see the abomination." Then in verse 21, it says, "Then there shall be great tribulation." So we see in order that first the abomination comes, and then it says, "Then there shall be great tribulation." It comes in order. Verse 15 first, then verse 21, the abomination before great tribulation. What does Mark show? The Gospel of Mark shows what shall be the sign. That's in verse 4. When you see the abomination. See, this is a discourse that Jesus is carrying out. This is a discourse, and it's all in order. This is in order based on his discourse. The sign, what they ask the question, what will be the sign? He goes on to answer general signs, then he says, the sign is the abomination, and then he goes on to say, then in those days, for in those days shall be affliction. So here, again, the two witnesses match. The sign is the abomination, then the affliction, great tribulation in order. So here's our summary so far, what we have so far. DEWEY BRUTON documented the date of the abomination as March 22nd, 2013. That was way back in 2005. He figured that out from the Bible, what day the abomination should happen. Now, we're not looking to go and force these issues on to this date. We are simply looking and carrying forth the evidence. We're looking at the facts. We're not trying to force this prophecy because DEWEY BRUTON said it. We have to force it all onto this date. No. It can't be forced onto this date. The prophecies will either be fulfilled or they will not be fulfilled. And then we see that all abomination events are only in Matthew, Mark, and Daniel. These are the only three books that we are ordered to look at when it talks about this. Matthew and Mark, Jesus sends us to Daniel. Matthew has a detail, Mark has a detail, and Daniel has all the rest of the details. So the abomination events are only in these three books. We cannot look at all the other prophets to try to figure out what they said about the abomination of desolation. And in fact, from what I understand, there are no other passages that talk specifically about the abomination of desolation. It's only in these three books. It's not in Revelation. Paul doesn't mention it, and Jesus told us to look in the book of Daniel. So events occurred that may indeed be the fulfillment of the abomination. Okay, we've not made our final decision yet here in this study because we need to work through all the events. We need to walk through all the events to make our final conclusion. And so, but events did occur that may indeed be the fulfillment of the abomination on this exact date. And then the church, the holy place, may be the church of the Nativity. That's what we still need to consider and look at and decide. And putting all the pieces together, then we can know this was the abomination or this wasn't the abomination. And that's what we need to do in this study. That's what each of us needs to consider in a greater way through our own study, through your own time, through your own discernment, through your own prayer and Bible study. And Jesus confirms abomination before great tribulation. And we should see it. We should see the abomination. Jesus said, when you see the abomination. So here we have the sign of his coming is the abomination of desolation. Okay, so the abomination of desolation was fulfilled on March 22nd, 2013. The Antichrist has been revealed biblically, Barack Hussein Obama. The abomination, standing where it ought not. And Jesus entered into the birthplace of Jesus Christ, and he did not bow, he did not show reverence. He stood and showed no respect. He should not be in that location. It's the abomination standing where it ought not. Now, has the Antichrist been revealed? For Barack Obama to be the Antichrist, he would have to fulfill the prophecies and characteristics of this figure on 3 different levels. I go through all this more in detail on that abomination document, and you'll have to go and look at and all that on your own more in depth. We've already talked about a number of these details, the abomination of desolation details. Now we are going to move on to the timelines of Daniel's 70 weeks. These prophecies are tied to days, weeks, and years. And then the characteristics and specific prophecies pertaining to the Antichrist. Now, all of these details need to be in conjunction. We can't have the abomination was fulfilled, but it was outside of the timeline of Daniel. No. Or we can say that this guy who doesn't fulfill all the prophecies, but he fulfilled the abomination. No. The person who fills the abomination will fulfill it at the time indicated, and it will also be the person that has all the characteristics and specific prophecies pertaining to the Antichrist. So everything will confirm upon itself. There can be no contradictions. If the abomination indeed occurred, revealing the Antichrist biblically as Barack Obama, then the timelines of Daniel will confirm it. We must understand that the abomination is only one part of a major prophecy that is all based on numbers, dates, days, and years. The abomination is not just one event, but must be confirmed by all surrounding evidence. Okay? So what that means is I can't say that on March 22nd, 2013, the abomination happened, but I know nothing else about the prophecy of Daniel that is within a prophecy of 70 weeks. And we have to have it fully explained to understand how the abomination could have been fulfilled on a specific date. Okay, now, this is very important. Very, very important, and I want everybody to pay attention and understand what I'm going to share here. If you need to take a break, pause this and get a glass of water, and then come back, or let's just continue moving on. There's a key to understanding Daniel chapter 9. Okay, and within Daniel chapter 9, we see this. We see this similarity, the similarity between the Israel in captivity in Babylon for 70 years and the prophecy that Daniel is going to get for 70 years. Now it says, in the first year of the reign, I, Daniel, understood by books the number of the years, wherein the word of the Lord came to Jeremiah the prophet, that he would accomplish 70 years in the desolations of Jerusalem. Daniel understood that the 70 years of the Babylonian captivity were over by the books of Jeremiah. He understood it was time to go home based on the writing of Jeremiah. He said, I understood by the books. Okay, Daniel understood. The key to understanding Daniel chapter 9 is that just as Daniel could understand by the books, when the end of the Babylonian captivity would be, we also can understand by the books when the 70-year prophecy will be fulfilled. By the books. It was written in the book of Jeremiah that the Babylonian captivity would last 70 years. What did Daniel need to know to understand that the 70 years were over? All Daniel needed to understand is where it all began. It was math. It was pure math. The prophecy said there shall be 70 years. So Daniel knew that because the captivity had begun in 586 before Christ, and you can take 70 years away from that or add 70 years to that, Daniel knew in 516 it was time to go home. It was all based on the books. It was written in the book of Jeremiah, and now it was time to go home. The year 516 had come. Let's go home. It's time to go home. Now look, again, we're still in Daniel chapter 9. We were just told in the beginning of the chapter, in Daniel chapter 9, that based on the books, Daniel could know when the 70 years were over. And in the same chapter, we see this same principle at work, and Daniel receives his own prophecy of 70 weeks or years. How can we understand it? By the books. How can we know when it is the time? If we have the beginning marker, we can know the end. Isn't that what Daniel needed to understand the books of Jeremiah? He understood the books, and he had his beginning marker. And then he said, it's time. Let's go home. Daniel 9, 24 and 25. This is the prophecy that was given to Daniel after he understood the 70-year prophecy of Jeremiah and understood that he could know by the books. He was given his own prophecy that was relating to 70 years or weeks. 70 weeks are determined upon thy people and upon thy holy city to finish the transgression, to make an end of sins, and to make reconciliation for iniquity, to bring in everlasting righteousness, to seal up the vision and the prophecy, and to anoint the most holy. Know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the commandment to restore and to build Jerusalem unto the Messiah the Prince shall be 7 weeks and 62 weeks. The street shall be built again, and the wall, even in troublous times. These two verses in Daniel show us a timeline. It shows us that 70 weeks are determined to bring an end of all things, the end of this age. It says 70 weeks are determined to finish the transgression, to make an end of sins, to make reconciliation for iniquity, to bring in everlasting righteousness, to seal up the vision and the prophecy, and to anoint the most holy. This leads us to the beginning of the millennium. It's the end of all things. It's the end of this age. And that is what it said in Matthew and Mark. What is the sign of your coming in at the end of this age? Then it shows that the 70 weeks or years are divided into 3 groups. 70, it mentions 7 weeks or years. It mentions 62 weeks or years. And that leaves 1 week or year to finish off 70 years. 62 plus 7 plus 1 is 70. In other words, once we reach that starting point, we can begin the countdown. 62 plus 7 is 69. There's 1 year left at the end. We were already told 70 weeks are determined. Now we need to find the beginning. How do we know when this begins? 1 prophetic week remains. Most people are waiting for that final 7 years to begin or end. Remember, most people today, the doctrine says it's that one final week, the 7 years we're waiting for to be fulfilled. Everything else was fulfilled at the first coming. And now we're waiting just for that final 7 years. But according to Daniel, this week is in the middle or part of a 70-week or year prophecy which cannot be separated from the entire prophecy. When Jesus tells us to look for the abomination according to Daniel, we must be able to see the entire 70-week prophecy to understand it. Okay? There's not 1 week remaining. There's the entire prophecy of Daniel's 70 weeks that also has a beginning point during the end, at the time of the end. It was fully fulfilled. That prophecy was fully fulfilled at the first coming of Jesus Christ, and now will be fully fulfilled now at the end of the age to bring us to the revelation of the abomination, so that we can understand the time of the abomination, the time of the rise of the Antichrist, the times of distress that are coming upon the world. We can understand it based on this prophecy. Where do the 70 weeks begin? And what I just said there, when Jesus, in Matthew chapter 24, Jesus in chapter 24, he says, the sign of my coming is the abomination of desolation, according to Daniel. That prophecy is within this prophecy, which means that whole entire prophecy must be fulfilled again. It can't be just the abomination one day. This is the sign of my coming. This is a one-day event, and there's no other biblical fulfillment or no other biblical confirmation. No, it starts out 70 years. There's a covenant. There's an abomination. And there's all these things that have to be happening to fulfill that prophecy. Where do the 70 weeks begin? The answer for us as to where this prophecy starts is in verse 25. Just as Daniel knew the Babylonian captivity would end by knowing when it started, according to the book of Jeremiah, we can also know the end by the book of Daniel, as long as we know where the prophecy begins. Daniel 9:25 gives us the answer, and it says, know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the commandment to restore and build Jerusalem unto Messiah the Prince shall be 7 weeks, and 62 weeks. So here we have the 70-week countdown starts at this event. It says that from the going forth of the commandment to restore and build Jerusalem. Okay, the order to restore Jerusalem begins the prophecy. The order to restore Jerusalem, the rebirth of Israel. There are 2 dates in question as to the rebirth of Israel. On May 14th, 1948, the Jews began to enter and to reclaim the Promised Land. On November 29th, 1947, the Palestinian partition plan voted on by the United Nations to restore Israel to their homeland, to divide the land. It was a partition plan to divide the land, and the Palestinians would have to give up the land they were occupying at this time to make way for the restoration of Israel. Now, what does the prophecy say? It says, from the order to restore Jerusalem. What is the order? The partition plan that was given in 1947 is the order to restore Jerusalem. Israel was reborn in 1948. Rebuilding began in 1948. But the prophecy does not say from the rebuilding. It says from the order for their restoration. So, verse 25, know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the commandment to restore and build Jerusalem, Israel was reborn in 1948, but the order for the restoration was given in 1947. So we have the beginning marker on our 70-week prophecy, 1947. the 70 weeks begin. So now we have a beginning year on our 70-week prophecy, 1947. Are they 70 weeks or 70 years? At the time of Christ, the prophecy was fulfilled in 70 weeks of years, 70 times 7 years, or 490 years. Now we are looking at 70 years. How can we know? There are two clues, 70 years. Pentecost is called the Feast of Weeks. This can easily be explained by the weeks meaning Pentecost, which is the same Hebrew word. Pentecost and weeks is the same Hebrew word. 70 weeks are determined. 70 feasts of weeks are determined. One feast per year, 70 feasts, 70 years. But the second clue is even more convincing. The parable of the fig tree. In exactly Matthew 24, where we receive the beginning of our understanding, it talks of the rebirth of Israel. Now learn a parable of the fig tree. When his branch is yet tender and put forth leaves, ye know that summer is nigh. So likewise ye, when ye shall see all these things, know that it is near, even at the doors. Verily I say unto you, this generation shall not pass till all these things be fulfilled. The fig tree is Israel. It says that another sign is the rebirth of Israel. From that fulfillment, we can know that one generation will pass for all these signs of the end to be fulfilled. Daniel shows us the beginning from the order. Okay, so we are in Matthew chapter 24, and part of that chapter is showing all the signs of his coming. And he says that when you see the rebirth of Israel, when you see the fig tree rebudding, then that generation shall not pass. Okay? Is that 70 weeks? 70 weeks of years, 490 years again? No, it's one generation. Then the Bible shows us how long a generation is based on an average lifespan. One generation equals an average lifespan. In Psalm 90, the days of our lives are 70 years. And if by reason of strength, they are 80 years. Yet their boast is only labor and sorrow, for it is soon cut off, and we fly away. Here it shows one generation as 70 or 80 years. 1947 plus 70 or 80 years. One generation from the rebirth of the fig tree. Matthew says one generation, and Daniel says from the order there will be 70 years. So here again we see 70 weeks equals 70 years. Confirmed in Matthew, one generation, 1947 plus 70 is 2017. So we have our timeline now, our first marker on the timeline that leads us to 2017, 70 years after the order to restore Jerusalem in 1947. Now we have marked the beginning and the end. 1947 plus 70 is 2017. What is supposed to happen after 62 years? Daniel 9:26. It says, after the 62 weeks, Messiah shall be cut off, but not for himself. And the people of the prince who is to come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary. The end of it shall be with a flood. Till the end of the war, desolations are determined. Then he shall confirm a covenant with many for 1 week. After 62 weeks, he will confirm a covenant with many. The covenant with many is to be signed in 2009. 1947 begins, and it shows us exactly that after 62 weeks, he will confirm a covenant with many. So now we have a year on our covenant that will be signed, and we must understand it based on the entire prophecy. It says, notice the wording in the text, covenant with many. This does not say there shall be a peace deal with Israel. Okay, most people say we're waiting for that great covenant, and over the last years there have been hundreds and hundreds of covenants that have been made throughout the world and with Israel. Barack Obama, when he was in Israel, March 22nd, 2013, the Unbreakable Alliance. But I don't hear anybody saying that's the covenant. It's almost as though people want to reject the fact that Barack Obama could even possibly be the Antichrist, and they're turning a blind eye. They're turning a blind eye. But here, the biblical text leads us. Covenant with many. It does not say peace deal with Israel. The 2009 Barack Obama covenant with many. From what I have already seen, the person in question who may have committed the abomination is Barack Obama. So if this is all true, then what we are looking for is a covenant with many, signed by many with Barack Obama, and this must take place in 2009. But we are not looking for just any covenant in 2009. We are also led to an exact date based on the timelines of Daniel. Barack Obama covenants in 2009. One covenant Obama received with many in 2009 was when he became president of the United States. Another covenant or agreement was his Nobel Peace Prize, when he himself said, "This prize is different from others, who receive their prizes at the end of their lives, while I am receiving mine at the beginning of my time on the world stage." Not an exact quote, but that was the essence of what he said in his speech when he received his Nobel Peace Prize. In other words, I haven't done anything yet. I'm just beginning my time on the world stage, and I'm receiving my prize. Not like others who at the end of their lives, through all their accomplishments, right, have received their prize. I have yet to begin my time on the world stage. That's a sign in and of itself, and people should be watching what is happening. So, from what I have already seen, let's see, no, I went back. Okay, 1 week, the middle of the week. Daniel says that the covenant will last 1 week or 7 years. Then it says the abomination happens midweek. So there's a time frame that must be fulfilled. Midweek. From March 22nd, 2013 to January 20th, 2009, the presidential inauguration, it's more than 4 years. That does not fit. Midweek is 3.5 years on 7 years, so it'd be around 3.5 years, and it's more than 4 years back to his presidential inauguration. So that does not fit. That is not the covenant we're looking for. The time between the covenant and the abomination. Before we talk about the Nobel Peace Prize as the fulfillment of the covenant with many, first we must talk about the timing of this prize in relation to the abomination. There's a time frame that must be fulfilled exactly according to the prophecy in the middle of the week. Daniel 9:27. Biblical understanding of 3.5 years. Midweek on 7 years is 3.5 years. The Bible describes this in 3 ways. Right here in Daniel it says midweek. Then in 3 locations it describes 3.5 years as time, times, and half a time. And in Revelation, 3.5 years is described as 1,260 days. It says that number exactly as a description of 3.5 years. 1,260 days. So the key date on our equation, where the key was given to unlock the clues when you see the abomination, is March 22nd, 2013. If the abomination was fulfilled on March 22nd, 2013, then it will be separated exactly from the covenant with many 3.5 years earlier, or exactly 1,260 days. March 22nd, 2013. minus 1260 days, October 9th, 2009. What happened on this date? The Obama Nobel Peace Prize, the exact day he received his covenant with many. Remember, the Bible confirms that the Antichrist will come into power through peace. The Antichrist will come into power through peace. His covenant with many was a peace prize. It was on the exact day that it needed to happen on, 3.5 years before the abomination, 62 years after the order to restore Jerusalem, 2009, and it was peace prize fulfilling what the Bible says is the source of his power, or the Antichrist will come into power through peace. He shall come in peaceably. Daniel 11:21. And in his place shall arise a vile person, to whom they will not give the honor of royalty, but he shall come in peaceably, and seize the kingdom by intrigue. He shall enter peaceably. Daniel 11:24. He shall enter peaceably, even into the richest places of the province. He shall do what his fathers have not done, nor his forefathers. He shall disperse among them the plunder, spoil, and riches, and he shall devise his plans against the strongholds, but only for a time. This man shall be the peace. And this man, Micah 5:5-6. And this man shall be the peace, when the Assyrian shall come into our land, when he shall tread in our palaces, then shall we raise against him 7 shepherds and 8 principal men. Here this man of peace is also a man of war, when he comes to tread in our palaces. So he's a trader of the peace. A covenant with many. It does not say a covenant with Israel or a peace deal with Israel. It says a covenant with many. Many deny that Barack Obama's Nobel Peace Prize was a covenant, because it is a prize. Yet what did Obama do to receive his Nobel Peace Prize? He did nothing. He had just come into power as the USA president and had yet to do anything of merit for such a title. So what he received was not a prize. It was based on agreement of what he would do in the future, just as he said, I am at the beginning of my time on the world stage, a covenant with many, just as Daniel says, then he shall confirm a covenant with many for 1 week. 2009 to 2016, here we are. Timelines so far. 1947 plus 70 is 2017. Then 1947 plus 62 is 2009, plus 7 is 2016, plus 1 is 2017. Then we have specific fulfillment on October 9th, 2009, adding 1260 days, March 22nd, 2013. The covenant matches the abomination. Now we are led by the number of days in the book of Daniel. The prophecy started out leading us by the number of years from 1947 to 2009, 62 years. We did not need the number of days, we needed the number of years. Then, based on biblical understanding, we convert 3.5 years, or midweek, into 1260 days. From the peace prize, we are led exactly to the abomination by the 1260 days difference in between the two events. But what happens now after the abomination? What does Daniel tell us next? Daniel 12:11 and 12 continues to talk about the abomination of desolation. Here is another clue about the timeline of the book of Daniel. Then it says, from the time that the daily sacrifice is taken away and the abomination of desolation is set up, there shall be 1,290 days. Once we have the date of the abomination, then we have another date that's revealed, 1,290 days after the abomination. Then it says, blessed is he who waits and comes to the 1,335 days. From the date of the abomination, the count of time begins again, 1,290 plus 45 days, 1,335 days. This day count is written in the Word. After the abomination, Daniel 12, 11, and 12 confirms to us that after the abomination there shall be 1,290 days. Then it says, blessed is he who waits and comes to the 1,335 days. March 22nd, 2013 plus 1,290 days is October 3rd, 2016, the Feast of Trumpets. Exactly landing on the Feast of Trumpets. Isn't that incredible? Remember, the abomination was 10 Nisan, exactly the triumphal entry, and now it's leading us to the Feast of Trumpets at the end of the 7 years. That is amazing that it lands exactly by the number of days on the Feast of Trumpets, the first day of the Feast of Trumpets. The final 7 years started in 2009. We were led to the abomination. Now we see that 1,290 days leads us to the 2016 Feast of Trumpets exactly on October 3rd, 2016. Is this the second coming? Is this the end of the tribulation? Warning, 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 alert, alert, alert. We are coming to the end of our time. Rapture is imminent. This was the reason that over the last 3 years, the constant warnings, every sign that I gave was, I was completely convinced, I have been up till now, I've been completely convinced that Jesus is coming now, and that every sign that the Lord was showing me was imminent rapture, and that everybody should prepare. Jesus told us to see the abomination, and I did see it. I saw the abomination. How long could tribulation last? We already had only 3.5 years left. Surely the tribulation was about to start any day. And that was the reason for my constant warnings. Only now, early in 2016, just a few weeks before I'm making this video, I have finally received, I have just understood the complete meaning of the 1,290 and the 1,335 days. I had not received that understanding from the time of my call or from the time of the abomination. It was just revealed to me. I just finally came into this understanding. That was the timing of the Lord for me to understand this, to be able to share this message in this way that I'm bringing forth. The meaning of the 1,290 and the 1,335 days. Daniel 12, 11, and 12 confirms to us that after the abomination there shall be 1,290 days. Then it says, blessed is he who waits and comes to the 1,335 days. So right here, after the abomination, we are led to two dates based on these two numbers of days. March 22nd, 2013, plus 1,290 days, is October 3rd, 2016, the Feast of Trumpets. And then we add 45 days, which brings us to the 1,335th day, November 17th, 2016. Now we have timelines to the end. 1947 plus 70 is 2017, broken down 62, 7, and 1. Then we have our full end time timeline from the date of the covenant with many, October 9th, plus 1,260 days, March 22nd, plus 1,290 days, October 3rd, plus 45 days, November 17th, 2016. Blessed is he who waits and comes to the 1,335 days. Every item here is confirmed by feast days. The day of Obama's Peace Prize, October 9, 2009, was on the Feast of Tabernacles. March 22nd was Nisan 10, the triumphal entry date. October 3rd, 2016, Feast of Trumpets. November 17th, 2016, is that a feast day? November 17th, 2016 is not a feast day. The sign for this day has its own meaning. The sign of Noah. By the number of days, all events happen as scheduled and also line up on exact feast days on the followed Jewish calendar of our day. This is astronomical. Unbelievable. But God wants us to see October 3rd, 2016 as the Feast of Trumpets, the first day of the first month. Now we can see what November 17th, 2016 is. November 17th, 2016 is the 17th day of the second month, as in the days of Noah. October 3rd, 2016 is Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year on the civil calendar. This is why the Bible guides us by an exact day count from the abomination to this date, so we could know this was the first day of the first month. Then we add 45 days to Rosh Hashanah. We come to the 17th day of the second month. This is the sign from the flood of Noah, the 17th day of the second month. This was the exact day the flood began. November 1 is last day of Tishri. As we look at this calendar, we can see that on Wednesday, November 2nd, the month of Cheshvan starts. And we move down, and we come down through the month of November, and we come to the 17th day of Cheshvan, which starts on the 17th of November and ends on the 18th of November. The 17th of Cheshvan begins on the 17th of November. See? 17th of Cheshvan begins on the as the sun sets the day before. So we have our day set begins from sunset to sunset, and it does not begin midnight to midnight as the Gregorian calendar shows. So we have this unique match that not only brings us to the 17th day on the second month, but it also brings us to the 17th day on the month of November. And there's a perfect match here. The 1335th day of Daniel brings us to the exact day that the flood began. And what does the Bible say? It confirms the day of the beginning of the flood. Genesis 7:11. In the 600th year of Noah's life, in the second month, the 17th day of the month, on that day, all the fountains of the great deep were broken up, and the windows of heaven were opened. Matthew 24:37. But as the days of Noah were, so also will the coming of the Son of Man be. This is a sign. This is a sign. The 17th day of the second month. It's the exact day, the end of the 1,335 days of Daniel. But Daniel calls it the blessed day. November 17th, 2016 is the blessed day. The blessed day for those who wait and come to this day. For those who long for their wedding feast with their Lord and persevere to the end, that they might be saved. Blessed is he who waits and comes to the 1,335th day. Daniel 12:12. Here we have our final timelines bringing us to November 17th, 2016. Every date that we have brought forth has heavenly signs of confirmation. From October 9th, 2009 all the way through November 17, 2016, there are heavenly signs of confirmation for every single date. On the Nobel Peace Prize confirmation, the day of the Peace Prize was October 9th. But on December 9th, 2009, just one day before receiving the award in Norway, the exact location where the award was being received, a mysterious spiral sign appeared in the heavens. And he also received his prize on Hanukkah, another feast day confirmation. So he received the award, he was awarded the prize, he was nominated for the prize on Tabernacles, and he received the prize on Hanukkah. And while he was receiving this prize in the same location, there was a mysterious sign in the heavens. Then, on March 22nd, 2013, meteor number 666. The American Meteor Society recorded two meteor events on the date of March 22nd. Meteor number 666 and 667. From the beginning of the year, January 1, the American Meteor Society begins documenting events. January 1 is event 1, and so forth. So we have the coincidence here, this spectacular, amazing, supernatural coincidence, right? That from January 1 through March 22nd, there were exactly 665 events through March 21st. And the first event on March 22nd was event number 666. It's the number of the beast. It's the day of the abomination. It's a sign in the heavens. Does not the Bible say that there will be signs in the heavens? Right? There will be signs in the heavens. So these two meteors were recorded. This is documented in my article entitled Heavenly Signs Confirming the Abomination of Desolation. And there's many other articles there, many other items there that are worth considering and looking at. And that link will be at the end of this presentation. But the other thing about these two events is that one was in California and the other was in D.C. So from coast to coast, two meteor events on the date of the abomination, a definite warning for America and for the world. October 3rd, 2016. The Revelation sign, not in its entirety, the Revelation sign that is in Revelation 12, the complete sign where the virgin will give birth is going to be fulfilled in 2017. But here on this exact day, confirming the Feast of Trumpets, confirming the date on the Daniel calendar, on the Daniel timeline, we have this sign exactly appearing on 10:3. If you look at the Revelation 12, 1 and 2, you have we see a woman, the moon at her feet, clothed with the sun, crowned with 12 stars, ready to give birth. So we have a virgin with the moon and the sun and the 12 stars, and the sun and the moon confirming on this date that this shows up right on this exact date. Then, here is our sign for November 17th. The Great Tribulation begins. This is the complete sign from Revelation 12, begins on this exact day. Revelation 12, 1 and 2. I did not write it in here. We need to look it up. Please look it up and follow along as we explain this sign. It says Jupiter is entering Virgo on the 1335th day. This is the beginning of the Revelation 12 sign, the blessed day. Revelation 12 sign shows that it is ready to give birth. Jupiter. Now, you must consider, you must look at the document that I have immediately following this presentation. It says November 17th, the 1335th day of Daniel leads us exactly to the beginning of the Revelation 12 sign in the heavens. Because Jupiter, as it enters into Virgo, will stay inside of Virgo, will make a loop within Virgo, and will remain in Virgo for 41 weeks. The exact time it takes for a complete labor cycle. A full-term birth from 38 to 42 weeks. 41 weeks, Jupiter will be in the belly of Virgo, and the maximum sign completes on the 23rd of September 2017, which happens to be the Feast of Trumpets on our calendar that is being followed today. This is the sign. This is the sign that confirms everything else that we have seen from 1947, leading us to the covenant, leading us to the abomination, leading us to October 3rd. The sign of his coming revealed is this sign. It's all the signs put together. In the two witnesses between DEWEY, BRUTON, and myself, all the evidence. I'm not saying we are the two witnesses. What I'm saying is that we are two witnesses that bring forth all of this information, although many of the details that DEWEY, BRUTON was bringing forth had not happened yet. He did not know that Barack Obama would be the fulfillment. He did not know about the covenant with many, what that would be, because he passed away before all these events began. I believe he passed away in 2008. So he was not alive to be able to see these events and to be able to continue his documentation. But what he began has been confirmed and followed up on, and now is being given clarification based on all the events that have been brought forth. And this is all the evidence that is needed to understand these biblical revelation has been brought forth. Then Dewey goes into all the Jubilee years and how we can understand by the Jubilee years that 2017 is also the end of the final, is also the final Jubilee. Going back from 1967, working backwards, we see every 50 years there's a Jubilee. So 1967, the Six-Day War was also a part of the liberation of Israel, and that was a Jubilee year, and now we have 2017. So from 1947, we have 70 years, and from 1967, we have 50 years, both leading us to 2017. The sign of his coming revealed. The rebirth of Israel was a sign. It's the fig tree. It's the order to restore Jerusalem. It's within the prophecy of Daniel and the abomination of desolation. It's the rebirth of Israel. It was fulfilled November 29th, 1947. The covenant with many was fulfilled October 9th, 2009, from 1947 2009. It had to be fulfilled in 2009. It was 62 years. We're given the date. Then we have the abomination of desolation fulfilled in the middle of the week. So we have the number of days fulfilling the abomination of desolation. Do you understand? If you understand the magnitude of what we have here, for you to deny, for anyone to deny these findings, then you would have to say that we have to rebuild this entire scenario with another fulfillment of the order to restore Jerusalem. We have to rebuild this scenario with another covenant. We have to rebuild this scenario with another abomination, and yet everything has to be separated by the exact number of years, by the exact number of days. See, this is impossible odds. This is why this prophecy is built in with math. It's built in with the calendar. It's built in with the number of days to confirm it. This is impossible odds. This is absolutely the complete and final fulfillment of the prophecy of Daniel's 70 weeks. It leads us from beginning to end how we can know. And there's no doubt whatsoever that the signs confirm October 3rd, 2016, moving on to November 17th, 2016, will be fulfilled exactly as written. This is the final sign of his coming. It is confirmed in Matthew. What shall be the sign of your coming? When you see the abomination of desolation, according to the prophet Daniel. Daniel leads us from one step to the other. Then we have to figure out all the clues. We have to understand. He says, let him who reads understand. Put away the doctrines of men. Look at the abomination of desolation. Study the holy place. Look at what Daniel says. If they wanted to know us to know temple, it would have said temple. It does not say temple. It does not say holy of holies. It says sanctuary, the sanctuary of strength, the holy place, the place of the sanctuary. And all the events happened on the day it had to happen. And we're right here now at the end of the calendar and the timeline of the reign of the Antichrist has been confirmed from the middle of the week to the end of the week. Times, and half a time to make war on the saints. He's been given half of that time. And then Micah 5 confirms. But just for a time. So then he will have 3.5 years till the Great Tribulation begins, and then there will be one more time where he will continue on to destroy the world and to bring about the final desolations. How long will the Great Tribulation last? Daniel showed us that from the order to restore Jerusalem, everything will end in 2017. Everything will end. The end of the age, everything will happen. 70 years are determined. And we have been shown the beginning of the Great Tribulation, November 17, 2016. How long will it last? The Revelation 12 sign starts on November 17th, comes to its maximum position on September 23rd, 2017. So here we have a time period of about 41 weeks or 9 months. The birth cycle of labor pains, just as it says in Revelation 12, with the virgin about to give birth. When they say peace and safety, sudden destruction will come as labor pains upon a woman. But I know this, Jesus will come and fulfill the Feast of Trumpets on its exact day, and the true calendar will be confirmed. I personally believe Jesus will return before September 23rd, 2017. The end of that time does not matter. Praise God. Hope to God that the days have been shortened. As it says in Matthew 24, it says the days have been shortened. See, unless those days have been shortened, no flesh would be saved. We are at the end of the 7 years. That final year from Daniel's timeline that was missing showed 62 plus 7 plus 1. That 1 year is the Great Tribulation. It turns out now about 9 months, but I believe about September 6th or September 9th will be the actual day of Christ's return. And it will confirm not the calendar we use today, but his true calendar based on the creation calendar, based on his true doctrines, the way it was set out, which I believe are not being followed really by anyone today. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. And Jesus will come on the day of the Feast of Trumpets according to his calendar, and I believe it will be before September 23rd. But November 17th, 2016 is the blessed day. In my mind, there's no doubt about it. I share it with all my heart. And I bring to you all the biblical confirmation that the Lord has shown me to share it. But either way, are you ready? Obviously, today or tomorrow is not guaranteed. You must live ready to meet your Creator each and every day of your life. But I do believe now that the Lord is sending a message. Persevere. A short time remains. Stand strong, your redemption draweth nigh. I do believe that great trials are coming right now upon the world. More so, I believe that we are in the last 9 months. This is also a time of labor pains. I believe that the attacks are going to increase. I believe the terror will be more severe, more frequent. I believe that the killing, the agenda to depopulate the world has begun and will be ramped up speedily. And great trials remain. And I believe that the Lord is giving this message now to let everybody know a short time remains. Everyone persevere. He who stands strong till the end, he who perseveres to the end, shall be saved. Thank you for watching. Please share with your friends and your family everywhere you can. Everything shared is written in the Word, will come to pass exactly as written in the Word. Heaven and earth shall pass away, but my word shall not pass away. God bless you.